On a cold February morning in 2024, the heavy steel doors of Riverside Correctional Facility in Ohio swung open for the last time for Isabella Rodriguez. After 8 years, 2,920 days of counting every sunrise through metal bars, she was finally free. But freedom, as Bella would soon discover, came with a price she never expected to pay. The 32-year-old woman stepped into the harsh winter air, clutching a plastic bag containing everything she owned. Her long black hair, now streaked with premature gray, hung loose around her shoulders. Her once bright brown eyes had grown cold and distant, hardened by years of survival in one of America's toughest women's prisons. She wore the same clothes she had on the day she was arrested, a simple blue dress that now hung loose on her thinner frame. Bella looked around the empty parking lot, expecting to see the familiar face of Marcus Thompson, the man she had sacrificed everything for. The man she had loved so deeply that she willingly took the blame for his crimes. But the parking lot was empty except for a few scattered cars and the bitter Ohio wind. If you're already feeling the weight of this betrayal, and you want to see how deep this rabbit hole goes, please hit that like button now. Trust me, you'll want to follow this story to the very end. 8 years earlier, Bella's life had been completely different. She lived in a cozy apartment in downtown Cleveland with Marcus, her fiancé of 2 years. At 24, she was a promising accountant at a mid-sized firm, known for her attention to detail and honest work ethic. Marcus, 28, worked as a financial advisor for wealthy clients, driving expensive cars and wearing designer suits that made him look like he belonged in a different world. Their love story had begun like something from a movie. They met at a coffee shop near Case Western Reserve University, where Bella was finishing her accounting degree. Marcus had just started his financial consulting business and was looking for someone to help him with his books. What started as a professional relationship quickly blossomed into romance. "You're different from other women," Marcus would tell her, his green eyes sparkling with what Bella thought was genuine love. "You're real, honest, trustworthy. I can build a future with someone like you." Bella's heart would flutter every time he said those words. Coming from a working-class Mexican-American family in East Cleveland, she had always felt like an outsider in Marcus's world of country clubs and expensive restaurants. But he made her feel special, chosen, worthy of the life he promised they would build together. Her younger sister Carmen often warned her about Marcus. At 22, Carmen was everything Bella wasn't: outgoing, flirtatious, and naturally beautiful in an effortless way that turned heads wherever she went. While Bella was serious and focused on her career, Carmen lived for the moment, working as a bartender and enjoying the attention she received from men. "Something's not right about him, Bella," Carmen would say during their weekly sister dinners at their favorite Mexican restaurant. "He's too smooth, too perfect. Men like that always have secrets." But Bella was blinded by love. Marcus had proposed to her on Christmas Eve 2015, getting down on one knee in front of her entire family during their holiday party. The ring was modest by his standards, but it represented everything Bella had ever dreamed of: a future with the man she loved, a chance to build something real and lasting. The proposal came at the perfect time. Marcus's business was growing rapidly, and he had started managing investment funds for several high-profile clients in Cleveland. He was making more money than ever before, and he promised Bella that after they married, she could quit her job and focus on starting a family. "I want to take care of you," he would whisper as they lay in bed making plans for their future. "You've worked so hard for everything. You deserve to be pampered, to be treated like a queen." Those words felt like magic to Bella, who had worked 2 jobs to put herself through college and had never had anyone offer to take care of her before. She began to imagine a life where she didn't have to worry about money, where she could focus on being a wife and eventually a mother. But in early 2016, just 3 months before their planned wedding, everything began to fall apart. It started with small things. Marcus became more secretive about his work, staying late at the office and taking phone calls in private. He would receive texts at all hours of the night, always claiming they were from demanding clients. His mood swings became more frequent. One day he would be loving and attentive, the next he would be distant and irritable. "The business is growing so fast," he would explain when Bella questioned his behavior. "I'm under a lot of pressure to perform for my clients, Once we get married and things settle down, everything will be perfect. Bella wanted to believe him. She had already sent out wedding invitations, booked the church, and ordered her dress. Their families were excited, and she couldn't bear the thought of disappointing everyone or admitting that maybe Carmen had been right about Marcus all along. The truth came crashing down on a rainy Tuesday in March 2016. Bella had left work early with a stomach bug and decided to surprise Marcus by bringing him homemade soup at his office. She used her spare key to let herself into the small building where he rented space, expecting to find him working late as usual. Instead, she found his office empty and his computer still on. As she waited for him to return, she noticed some documents scattered across his desk. Her accountant's eye was automatically drawn to the numbers, and what she saw made her blood run cold. The documents showed massive discrepancies in client accounts. Money that should have been invested in safe, conservative funds had been moved to high-risk ventures. Some investments appeared to be completely fictitious. Worst of all, she could see that Marcus had been using money from new clients to pay fake returns to older clients, a classic Ponzi scheme that would eventually collapse and destroy everyone involved. Bella's hands shook as she read through page after page of fraudulent transactions. The amounts were staggering. Marcus had stolen over $2 million from his clients, many of whom were elderly retirees who had trusted him with their life savings. When Marcus returned to his office an hour later, he found Bella sitting in his chair, the documents spread out in front of her. His face went white when he saw what she had discovered. "Bella, I can explain," he said quickly, closing the door behind him. "It's not what it looks like." "It looks like you've been stealing money from your clients," Bella said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It looks like you've been running a Ponzi scheme." Marcus sat down across from her, his usual confidence replaced by desperation. "I never meant for it to go this far," he said. "It started small. I just borrowed money from one account to cover a loss in another. I was going to pay it back, but then the market crashed and I lost even more. I had to keep taking money to cover the losses." "Marcus, this is fraud," Bella said, feeling sick to her stomach. "These people trusted you with their retirement savings. Mrs. Patterson from church, she gave you her late husband's life insurance money. The Johnsons down the street, they trusted you with their daughter's college fund." I know, Marcus said, running his hands through his hair. "But I have a plan to fix everything. I just need more time." "More time to steal more money?" Bella stood up, backing away from him. "I can't be part of this, Marcus. You have to turn yourself in. You have to try to make this right." That's when Marcus's desperation turned into something darker. He looked at Bella with an expression she had never seen before, cold, calculating, and completely without the love she thought they shared. "You're not going anywhere," he said quietly. "You're already part of this, whether you like it or not." "What do you mean?" Marcus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Your name is on half of these accounts, Bella. Remember when I asked you to sign some business papers last month? You thought you were signing employment documents for when you joined my firm after we got married." Bella's heart stopped. She remembered the stack of papers Marcus had asked her to sign, telling her they were just formalities for her future employment. She had trusted him completely and signed without reading every detail. "You signed agreements making you a co-manager of the investment funds," Marcus continued. "Your accounting background and clean record made you the perfect front for my operation. If anyone investigates, it will look like you were the mastermind behind everything." "That's impossible," Bella said, but even as she spoke, she knew Marcus had planned this carefully. He had always been smart, always thinking several steps ahead. "The FBI is already asking questions," Marcus said. "I heard from a contact that they're planning to make arrests within the next few weeks. When they do, they're going to find evidence that points to you as the person who created the fraudulent investment schemes." Bella felt the room spinning around her. "You set me up." "I protected us both," Marcus corrected. "If you take the blame for this, you'll get maybe 3 to 5 years because you have no criminal history. But if I go down, I'm looking at 25 to life, and you'll still be charged as an accomplice. This way, I can keep the business running, pay back the investors gradually, and when you get out, we'll have enough money to disappear and start over somewhere new." The level of betrayal here is unimaginable, But if you think this is shocking, wait until you see what happens next. Hit that subscribe button because this story is about to take turns that will leave you speechless. The next few weeks passed in a blur of fear and confusion. Marcus convinced Bella that running would only make things worse, that it would prove her guilt. He promised her that he had the best lawyers money could buy, that they would fight the charges together, that everything would work out. But Bella could see the truth in his eyes. He had already written her off, already decided that her freedom was an acceptable sacrifice for his security. The man she had loved, the man she had planned to spend her life with, was willing to let her go to prison for crimes she had never committed. When the FBI agents knocked on their apartment door on April 15, 2016, Marcus was ready. He acted shocked and devastated when they arrested Bella, holding her hand and promising that he would do everything in his power to prove her innocence. "This has to be a mistake," he told the agents, his voice cracking with what sounded like genuine emotion. "Bella would never do something like this. She's the most honest person I know." But the evidence against her was overwhelming. Her signatures were on all the fraudulent documents. Her accounting background provided a motive and means. Marcus had been careful to create a paper trail that led directly to her while keeping himself in the shadows as a victim of her deception. The trial was a nightmare. Marcus testified against her, painting himself as a naive businessman who had been manipulated by his fiance's accounting expertise. He claimed that Bella had convinced him to trust her with the business finances, that he had been too blinded by love to see what she was really doing. "I thought I knew her," Marcus said on the witness stand, tears streaming down his face. "I thought she was the woman I was going to marry, the mother of my future children. I never imagined she was capable of stealing from innocent people." Bella's court-appointed lawyer was overwhelmed and underprepared. The prosecutor painted her as a cold, calculating criminal who had used her position and her fiancé's trust to steal millions from vulnerable victims. The media portrayed her as the accountant who had seduced a successful businessman into her web of financial fraud. On June 23, 2016, Bella was sentenced to 10 years in prison for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. She was also ordered to pay restitution of $2.3 million, money she had never seen and could never hope to repay. As the bailiff led her away in handcuffs, Bella looked back at the courtroom one last time. Marcus was sitting in the front row, his head buried in his hands as if he was overcome with grief. But when he thought no one was looking, she saw him check his watch and glance toward the exit, already planning his escape from this performance. The last thing Bella heard before the courtroom doors closed was her sister Carmen sobbing in the gallery, calling out her name and promising that she would prove Bella's innocence. Riverside Correctional Facility was everything Bella had feared and worse. The overcrowded women's prison was a maze of concrete and steel, filled with women who had been failed by the same system that had failed her. Her cellmate was a woman named Angela who had been convicted of drug trafficking to support her 3 children after her husband abandoned them. "First time?" Angela asked on Bella's first night, noting the terror in her eyes. Bella nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything," Bella whispered. "I was framed by my fiancé." Angela laughed bitterly. "Honey, half the women in here were betrayed by men they trusted. The other half were betrayed by men they didn't trust but needed anyway. Either way, we're all here and they're all out there living their lives." The routine of prison life was brutal and dehumanizing. Bella woke every morning at 5 a.m. to the sound of guards shouting and metal doors slamming. She worked in the prison laundry for 12 hours a day, earning 40 cents an hour that mostly went to pay for basic necessities like soap and toothpaste. But the worst part wasn't the physical conditions, it was the isolation from everything and everyone she had ever loved. Marcus never visited. He never wrote. He never even put money in her commissary account. As far as the outside world was concerned, Bella Rodriguez had simply disappeared. Carmen tried to visit every month for the first 2 years, making the 4-hour drive from Cleveland to the prison in southern Ohio. She would cry every time she saw Bella in her orange jumpsuit, separated by thick glass and speaking through a scratchy phone system. "I'm going to prove you're innocent," Carmen promised during every visit. "I'm going to find evidence that Marcus set you up. I'm going to get you out of here." But as the months turned into years, Carmen's visits became less frequent. She was struggling to make ends meet on her bartender's salary, especially with the gas money and time off work required for the long trips to the prison. She had started dating someone new, a guy named David who didn't understand why she was so obsessed with her sister's case. She was convicted by a jury, David would tell Carmen. Maybe it's time to accept that Bella made some bad choices and move on with your life. By the third year, Carmen was only visiting every few months. By the fourth year, her visits stopped altogether. The last letter Bella received from her sister was in December 2019, a short note saying that Carmen was sorry but she couldn't keep fighting a battle that seemed impossible to win. Can you imagine being abandoned by everyone you love while serving time for something you didn't do? If this story is breaking your heart the way it's breaking mine, please hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe because what happens next will shock you to your core. Bella's world shrank to the size of her 8x10 cell and the small sections of the prison where she was allowed to move during designated hours. She read every book in the prison library, some of them multiple times. She took every educational class available, earning her CPA certification and even starting work on a bachelor's degree in business administration through a correspondence program. But mostly she waited. She waited for Marcus to come clean. She waited for Carmen to find the evidence that would prove her innocence. She waited for a lawyer who would believe her story and fight for her freedom. None of those things ever came. Instead, what came were the rumors and pieces of news that filtered into the prison through other inmates and guards. Marcus had quietly closed his financial consulting business, claiming that the scandal had destroyed his reputation. He had moved out of Cleveland, possibly to another state. Some inmates claimed their families had heard he was living in Florida, working under a different name. In her 6th year, Bella received a letter that changed everything. It wasn't from Marcus or Carmen or a lawyer. It was from Mrs. Eleanor Patterson, one of Marcus's elderly clients who had lost her life savings in his Ponzi scheme. Dear Miss Rodriguez, the letter began in shaky handwriting. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I had to write. I've been following your case and I've never believed you were the mastermind behind what happened to my money. You were always so kind when I came to Marcus's office, always patient with my questions. You didn't seem like someone who would hurt innocent people. The letter went on to explain that Mrs. Patterson had hired a private investigator with what little money she had left, hoping to recover some of her losses. The investigator had uncovered evidence that Marcus had been running similar schemes in other cities, using different names and identities. The investigator found bank accounts in Marcus's name in 3 different states, Mrs. Patterson wrote. He also found evidence that Marcus had been planning this for years, setting up fake business documents and creating false identities. I'm sending copies of everything to your lawyer, but I wanted you to know that at least one of his victims believes in your innocence. The evidence Mrs. Patterson's investigator had found was compelling, but it wasn't enough to overturn Bella's conviction. Her overworked public defender filed an appeal, but the courts were reluctant to reopen a case based on new evidence that didn't definitively prove Bella's innocence, only Marcus's additional guilt. Meanwhile, Bella was fighting battles on multiple fronts within the prison. As an educated woman who kept to herself, she was seen as thinking she was better than the other inmates. She faced constant harassment and several physical altercations before finding protection with a group of older women who appreciated her help with their legal paperwork and appeals. The years crawled by with agonizing slowness. Bella celebrated her 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st birthdays behind bars, each one a reminder of all the life she was missing. She missed Carmen's wedding, which she only learned about through a brief mention in a letter from a cousin. She missed her mother's death from cancer, a loss that nearly broke her spirit completely. It was Angela, her original cellmate who had become her closest friend, who kept Bella from giving up entirely during the darkest periods. Your day is coming, Angela would say when Bella sank into depression so deep she couldn't get out of bed. I can feel it. Your day is coming, and when it does, you're going to be ready. You're going to be strong enough to handle whatever's waiting for you out there. In January 2024, that day finally came. Bella's sentence was reduced for good behavior and completion of educational programs. After 8 years, 2 months and 16 days she was scheduled for release. The night before her release, Bella lay awake in her cell, staring at the ceiling and trying to imagine what her life would look like as a free woman. She was 32 years old, with no money, no job prospects, and a criminal record that would follow her forever. She had no idea where Marcus was or what had become of him. She hadn't heard from Carmen in over 4 years. But she had something she hadn't had when she first arrived at Riverside. She had strength. 8 years of surviving in one of the toughest environments imaginable had taught her that she was capable of enduring anything. Whatever was waiting for her in the outside world, she could handle it. On the morning of February 14, 2024, Valentine's Day, which felt like the universe's idea of a cruel joke, Bella walked out of Riverside Correctional Facility carrying her plastic bag of belongings and wearing clothes that had been donated by a prison ministry program. She had given Carmen's address as her release location, the only address she had for family. A bus ticket to Cleveland was waiting for her, paid for by a prisoner reentry program. She had $200 in gate money and the hope that her sister would be willing to help her get back on her feet. The bus ride from southern Ohio to Cleveland took 3 hours, giving Bella plenty of time to stare out the window at a world that had changed dramatically during her incarceration. Everyone seemed to be staring at small screens in their hands. Cars looked different. Even the billboards and advertisements seemed to be advertising products and services she had never heard of. When the bus pulled into the Cleveland station, Bella expected to feel joy or relief or excitement about returning to her hometown. Instead, she felt only anxiety. 8 years was a long time, and she had no idea what she would find when she arrived at Carmen's apartment. The address Carmen had given her led to a modest apartment complex in a neighborhood Bella didn't recognize. She climbed the stairs to apartment 3B and knocked on the door, her heart pounding with nervousness and anticipation. The woman who answered the door was Carmen, but it was a Carmen that Bella barely recognized. Her sister had gained weight and looked older than her 30 years. Her hair was shorter and colored blonde, and she was wearing an expensive-looking wedding ring that caught the light from the hallway. But it was the expression on Carmen's face that truly shocked Bella. It wasn't joy or relief or excitement. It was guilt, pure and undeniable guilt. "Bella," Carmen said softly, her hand still on the door as if she was considering closing it. You're early." "Early?" Bella repeated, confused. "I sent you a letter with my release date 3 weeks ago." "I know, I thought." Carmen trailed off, unable to meet Bella's eyes. That's when Bella heard a familiar voice from inside the apartment. "Carmen, who's at the door?" Bella's blood turned to ice. She knew that voice, had heard it in her dreams and nightmares for 8 years. Marcus Thompson, the man who had stolen her life, was inside her sister's apartment. I can't even imagine the emotions Bella must be feeling right now. If your heart is racing as much as mine is, please hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this betrayal unfolds. "Carmen," Bella said slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why is Marcus in your apartment?" Before Carmen could answer, Marcus appeared in the doorway behind her. He looked older, with graying temples and lines around his eyes, but he was still handsome in the smooth, confident way that had first attracted Bella years ago. He was wearing an expensive-looking sweater and jeans, the kind of casual clothes that suggested success and comfort. When he saw Bella, his face went through a series of expressions: surprise, guilt, and then a cold calculation that Bella remembered all too well. "Hello, Bella," he said, as if they were old acquaintances who had run into each other at a coffee shop. "You look, well." Bella stared at him, then at Carmen, then back at him, trying to process what she was seeing. "What are you doing here?" "I live here," Marcus said simply. "Carmen and I are married." The words hit Bella like a physical blow. She staggered backward, grabbing the stair railing for support. "Married?" Carmen finally found her voice. "Bella, let me explain. It's not what you think." "It's not what I think?" Bella repeated, her voice growing stronger as anger began to replace shock. "My sister is married to the man who destroyed my life? The man who sent me to prison for 8 years? What exactly am I supposed to think?" "Maybe you should come inside," Marcus said, glancing around the hallway as if he was worried about neighbors overhearing. "This isn't a conversation for the hallway." Bella followed them into the apartment in a daze. The living room was nicely furnished with modern furniture and expensive-looking decorations. There were photos on the mantelpiece, Carmen and Marcus at what looked like a beach wedding, Carmen and Marcus at various restaurants and vacation spots, Carmen and Marcus looking happy and in love. "How long?" Bella asked, her voice completely flat. Carmen and Marcus exchanged a look. "How long what?" Carmen asked. "How long have you been together? How long have you been married? How long have you been lying to me?" Another exchanged look. Marcus nodded at Carmen as if giving her permission to speak. "We got married 3 years ago," Carmen said quietly. "But we've been together for 5 years." Bella did the math quickly. 5 years. So you started dating him while I was in prison. While I was serving time for his crimes. "It wasn't like that," Carmen said quickly. "I was investigating Marcus, trying to prove that he had framed you. I started following him, watching him, trying to find evidence. And you fell in love with him instead," Bella finished. "It's more complicated than that," Marcus interjected. "Carmen discovered some things about your case, things that could have caused problems for both of us. We had to find a way to work together." "What kind of things?" Carmen looked miserable. "I found bank records that showed Marcus had been moving money around before your arrest. I found evidence that he had been planning to frame someone for months before he chose you. So you had proof that I was innocent," Bella said, her voice rising. "You had evidence that could have gotten me out of prison years ago, and you— What? You blackmailed him? You made a deal with him?" "I was protecting you," Carmen said desperately. "If I had turned over the evidence, Marcus would have been arrested, but he would have taken you down with him. He had more evidence against you, things that would have made your sentence even longer. So instead, you decided to marry him and let me rot in prison." Marcus stepped forward. "Bella, you need to understand the position we were all in. If Carmen had exposed me, it would have destroyed all of us. I would have gone to prison for life, you would have gotten additional charges, and Carmen would have been charged as an accessory for withholding evidence. This way," Carmen added, "I could keep an eye on Marcus, make sure he didn't hurt anyone else, and work on getting you released early for good behavior." Bella stared at them both, trying to comprehend the depth of their betrayal. "So you've been playing house with my fiancé for 5 years while I was locked up for crimes he committed." "Former fiancé," Marcus corrected. "Technically, our engagement ended when you were arrested." The casualness of his tone was the last straw. 8 years of suppressed rage exploded out of Bella all at once. She lunged at Marcus, her hands going for his throat, but Carmen jumped between them. "Bella, stop!" Carmen screamed. "You're on parole? If you assault him, you'll go back to prison." The reminder of her legal situation stopped Bella cold. She was right, any violent crime would send her straight back to Riverside, and this time there would be no early release, no second chances. But the rage was still there, burning in her chest like acid. 8 years, she said, her voice shaking with fury. 8 years of my life. 8 years of missing everything: Mom's death, holidays, birthdays, your wedding. 8 years of being treated like an animal, of fighting every day just to survive. And all that time, you two were building a life together with the money he stole. "We didn't use any of the stolen money," Marcus said. "I paid back every penny to the investors." "With what?" Bella demanded. "Where did you get $2 million? Marcus and Carmen exchanged another look. "Marcus has been working," Carmen said vaguely. "Doing what?" "Consulting," Marcus said. "Financial consulting for private clients." Bella laughed bitterly. "So you're still running scams? You're still stealing money, just more carefully this time." "It's legitimate business," Marcus insisted, but something in his tone suggested otherwise. Bella looked around the apartment again, taking in the expensive furniture, the designer clothes Carmen was wearing, the luxury watch on Marcus's wrist. "How much of this was bought with stolen money?" "None of it," Carmen said firmly. "Bella, I know how this looks, but Marcus really did change. He's not the same person who hurt you." "The same person who hurt me?" Bella repeated. "Carmen, he didn't just hurt me. He destroyed my entire life. He sent me to prison for 8 years for crimes I didn't commit. And you married him. You married the man who ruined your sister's life." Carmen started crying. I was trying to protect you. I thought if I could control him, if I could keep him close, I could make sure he never hurt anyone else. And I thought maybe I could get him to confess, to tell the truth about what really happened. And did he? Bella asked. Did he ever confess? Carmen wiped her eyes and shook her head. He says that what's done is done. That reopening the case would just hurt everyone involved. Marcus nodded. Bella, I know you're angry and you have every right to be. But the past is the past. We can't change what happened, but we can move forward. We can help you get back on your feet, find you a place to live, help you find a job. You want to help me? Bella asked incredulously. Of course, Marcus said. Despite everything that's happened between us, I still care about you. We both do. Bella stared at him for a long moment, then started laughing. It was a harsh, bitter sound that had no humor in it. You still care about me? She repeated. The man who framed me for his crimes, who let me go to prison for 8 years while he married my sister, still cares about me. Bella, please, Carmen pleaded. Let us help you. You don't have anywhere else to go. That was the moment when the full weight of her situation hit Bella. Carmen was right, she had nowhere else to go. No money, no job, no friends or family who would take her in. Her choices were to accept help from the people who had betrayed her, or to live on the streets as an ex-convict with no resources. I need some air, Bella said abruptly. I need to think. She walked out of the apartment and down the stairs, leaving Marcus and Carmen behind. The February air was cold against her face, but it felt clean and honest in a way that the atmosphere in the apartment had not. The level of betrayal here is beyond anything I could have imagined. If you're as shocked as I am by Carmen and Marcus's actions, please hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now because this story is about to take another incredible turn. ***. Bella walked through the unfamiliar neighborhood for hours, trying to process everything she had learned. Her sister, her baby sister who she had protected and loved her entire life, had not only abandoned her, but had actually married the man who had destroyed her life. The rational part of her mind understood that Carmen had been young and confused, that maybe she really had thought she was protecting Bella by keeping Marcus close. But the emotional part of her, the part that had survived 8 years in prison by holding on to the hope that her family still loved her, felt completely shattered. As evening approached, Bella found herself in a small park, sitting on a bench and watching children play on the playground equipment. She thought about all the life events she had missed, all the experiences that had been stolen from her. She would never get those years back, never get the chance to live the life she had planned. Her phone, a basic model that the prison had given her for re-entry, buzzed with a text message from Carmen. Please come back. We need to talk. There are things you don't know. Bella stared at the message for a long time before responding. What things? The reply came quickly. About why Marcus really chose you. About what he's been doing for the past 8 years. About why we got married. Please come back. Curiosity won over anger, and Bella found herself walking back toward Carmen's apartment as the sun set over Cleveland. She climbed the stairs slowly, dreading what new revelations awaited her. When she knocked on the door, Marcus answered. His confident facade had cracked, and he looked nervous and defensive. Thank you for coming back, he said. Carmen was worried you might do something reckless. Bella pushed past him into the apartment. Carmen was sitting on the couch, surrounded by boxes of documents and files. What's all this? Bella asked. The truth, Carmen said. All of it. Everything I've been keeping from you for the past 5 years. Bella sat down across from her sister and waited. Carmen took a deep breath. Marcus didn't choose you randomly to frame for his crimes. He specifically targeted you because of your accounting background and because he knew he could manipulate you. I already figured that out, Bella said. But what you don't know is that you weren't his first victim. Marcus has been running investment scams for over 15 years in multiple cities. He always finds a woman to frame, always someone smart enough to make a convincing scapegoat but naive enough to trust him. Carmen pulled out a file folder and handed it to Bella. Inside were newspaper clippings, police reports, and legal documents from 3 different cities: Atlanta, Denver, and Phoenix. Sarah Mitchell in Atlanta, Carmen read. Sentenced to 12 years for investment fraud in 2009. She claimed her boyfriend had set her up, but no one believed her. She's still in prison. Jennifer Walsh in Denver. Sentenced to 10 years in 2011. Same story, claimed her fiance had framed her. She was released last year and is living in a halfway house. Rebecca Chen in Phoenix. Sentenced to 8 years in 2013. She committed suicide in prison in 2018. Bella felt sick as she read through the documents. The pattern was identical in every case. Marcus would target successful women in financial fields, gain their trust through romance, set up elaborate fraudulent schemes using their credentials, and then disappear while they went to prison. How did you find all this? Bella asked. It took me 3 years, Carmen said. I hired private investigators, spent every penny I had saved, followed paper trails across the country. I was determined to prove that Marcus had framed you, but the more I dug, the more I realized how extensive his operation was. So why didn't you go to the police? Carmen and Marcus exchanged another look. Because by the time I found all this evidence, Marcus and I were already involved, Carmen said quietly. Involved how? I confronted him with what I had found, Carmen said. I threatened to expose him unless he helped me get you released early. But Marcus had evidence of his own. What kind of evidence? Marcus spoke for the first time. Evidence that Carmen had been embezzling money from the bar where she worked to pay for her investigation. Small amounts over several years, but enough to constitute felony theft. Bella stared at her sister. You stole money to investigate Marcus? Carmen nodded, tears streaming down her face. I was desperate. The private investigators were expensive, and I was working 2 jobs just to pay rent. I told myself I would pay it back when I proved your innocence and got a reward or sued Marcus for damages. So Marcus blackmailed you. He offered me a deal, Carmen said. If I agreed to stop investigating him and to never reveal what I had found, he would help me cover up the embezzlement and would use his connections to get you released early for good behavior. And the marriage? Carmen looked away. That came later. Marcus said it would be better if we appeared to be a normal couple, that it would draw less suspicion if we were together publicly. The marriage was just a way to make the arrangement look legitimate. Bella felt like she was drowning in betrayal. So you've been living a lie for 5 years? Yes, Carmen whispered. But it worked. Marcus did use his connections to get your sentence reduced. You were supposed to serve 10 years, but you got out after 8 because of the strings he pulled. 2 years, Bella said bitterly. You saved me 2 years in exchange for marrying the man who destroyed my life. It was the best I could do, Carmen said desperately. If I had exposed Marcus, he would have exposed me and we both would have gone to prison. You would have served your full sentence anyway and I would have been locked up too. At least this way one of us stayed free. Marcus cleared his throat. There's more you should know, Bella. About what I've been doing for the past 8 years. Bella looked at him with pure hatred. What? I've been paying restitution to all my victims, he said. Not just from your case but from all the previous cases too. Sarah, Jennifer, Rebecca, I've been sending money to their families, paying for their legal appeals, trying to make amends. With what money? I've been running a legitimate consulting business, Marcus said. Real clients, real investments, real returns. I've made millions in the past 8 years, and most of it has gone to paying back the people I hurt. You expect me to believe you've reformed? I expect you to believe that I've been trying to atone for what I did, Marcus said. I know I can never undo the damage I caused, but I've been trying to make it right in the only way I know how. Carmen pulled out another folder. He's telling the truth, Bella. I've been monitoring all his business dealings for the past 5 years. Every transaction, every client, every dollar. It's all legitimate. Bella laughed harshly. So you've been his accountant too, making sure he doesn't steal from anyone else while he's paying back his previous victims with money he steals from new ones. It's not stolen money, Marcus insisted. I've built a legitimate business. I use my real name, I pay taxes, I follow all the regulations. I'm not running any scams. And what about the other women? Sarah and Jennifer and Rebecca? Have you confessed to framing them? Marcus looked uncomfortable. It's complicated. If I confess to their cases, it would invalidate all the restitution payments I've made. The government would seize my assets and none of the victims would get their money back. So you're still letting innocent women sit in prison while you play the reformed criminal. Sarah is scheduled for release next year, Carmen said quickly. Jennifer is already out and has received over $300,000 in restitution payments from Marcus. We're working on getting Rebecca's family compensation for her death. Rebecca killed herself in prison, Bella said coldly. Money won't bring her back. The room fell silent. Marcus stared at his hands and Carmen wiped tears from her eyes. I know this is overwhelming, Carmen said finally. I know it doesn't excuse what we did to you. But Marcus really has changed and we really have been trying to make things right. By lying to me for 8 years, Bella said. By letting me believe that I was abandoned by everyone I loved while you two built a life together. We didn't know how to tell you, Carmen said. Every time I visited you in prison I wanted to explain everything, but I was afraid you would do something that would hurt your chances for early release. You were afraid I would tell the truth. We were afraid you would get hurt, Marcus said. Prison is dangerous for people who make waves, who cause problems for the wrong people. If word had gotten out that you were trying to overturn your conviction, it could have made your time there much more difficult. I can barely wrap my head around this level of manipulation and betrayal. If you're feeling as angry and heartbroken as I am right now, please show your support by hitting that like button. This story is far from over, so make sure you subscribe to see how it ends. Bella stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights of Cleveland. 8 years ago, this had been her home, the place where she had planned to build a life with Marcus. Now it felt like a foreign country, full of strangers and secrets. What do you want from me? She asked without turning around. We want to help you, Carmen said. We want to give you the chance to rebuild your life. With what? I have no money, no job prospects, no place to live. I'm a convicted felon with an 8-year gap in my resume. Marcus has connections, Carmen said. He can help you find work, help you get back on your feet. I don't want his help, Bella said firmly. I don't want anything from either of you. Bella, be practical, Marcus said. You need help whether you want it or not. You can't survive on your own with no resources. Bella turned around to face them. Watch me. She walked toward the door, but Carmen jumped up to stop her. Where will you go? What will you do? I'll figure it out, Bella said. I survived 8 years in prison. I can survive anything. Please don't leave like this, Carmen begged. You're my sister. You're the only family I have left. You should have thought about that before you married the man who destroyed my life, Bella said coldly. She walked out of the apartment for the second time that day, but this time she knew she wasn't coming back. The next few weeks were the hardest of Bella's life, even harder than her first weeks in prison. At least in prison she had known what to expect, had known the rules and boundaries of her situation. On the streets of Cleveland as an ex-convict with no resources, she was completely lost. She spent her first few nights in a homeless shelter, sharing a room with dozens of other women who had fallen through the cracks of society. The shelter had strict rules: no weapons, no drugs, no alcohol, and no violence. But it also had a time limit. Residents could only stay for 30 days before they had to find alternative housing. During the day, Bella walked the streets looking for work. But every application asked about criminal history, and every potential employer lost interest as soon as they heard she had served 8 years for financial fraud. Even minimum wage jobs at fast food restaurants and convenience stores were closed to her. After 2 weeks, her $200 in gate money was almost gone. She had spent it on basic necessities: food, toiletries, bus fare to job interviews that never materialized into actual jobs. She was facing the very real possibility of living on the streets with no income and no prospects. That's when she met Dr. Sarah Mitchell. Bella was sitting in a coffee shop, using their free Wi-Fi to apply for jobs online, when a woman approached her table. She was in her early 40s, well-dressed, with graying hair and intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Excuse me," the woman said. "Are you Isabella Rodriguez?" Bella looked up suspiciously. "Who's asking?" My name is Dr. Sarah Mitchell. I believe we have something in common. The name was familiar, and it took Bella a moment to place it. You're the woman from Atlanta. The one Marcus framed before me. Sarah nodded and sat down across from Bella. I was released from prison 6 months ago. I've been looking for you ever since. How did you find me? I've been tracking Marcus Thompson for years, Sarah said. I hired investigators, followed his movements, documented his pattern of behavior. When I heard about your release, I knew you would need help. Bella studied Sarah's face. She looked older than her years, with the same hardened expression that Bella had developed during her time in prison. But there was also something else, a determination, a strength that spoke of someone who had survived the worst and come out fighting. What do you want? Bella asked. I want justice, Sarah said simply. For all of us. Marcus Thompson has destroyed the lives of at least 4 women that we know of, and he's never faced any real consequences for his actions. He's living comfortably with your sister while we struggle to rebuild our lives. I know about the restitution payments, Bella said. Carmen showed me documentation that he's been paying money to victims. Sarah laughed bitterly. Restitution payments that come with non-disclosure agreements. He's been buying our silence, not making amends. The money I received came with a contract stating that I could never speak publicly about my case or pursue legal action against him. You signed it? I needed the money, Sarah said simply. I got out of prison with nothing, just like you. I had no choice but to accept his terms if I wanted to survive. But you're here talking to me. Because I realized that taking his money was just another form of letting him control my life, Sarah said. I've spent the past 6 months preparing to break that contract and expose him for what he really is. Sarah pulled out a tablet and showed Bella a website she had created. It was called Marcus Thompson Victims Network, and contained detailed information about his pattern of fraud, photos of his victims, and documentation of his crimes across multiple states. I've been in contact with Jennifer Walsh from Denver, Sarah continued. She's ready to speak out too. We've been gathering evidence, building a case, preparing to take Marcus down once and for all. What about Rebecca Chen's family? Sarah's expression darkened. Her family has agreed to participate. They want justice for their daughter, and they want to make sure Marcus never hurts anyone else. Bella scrolled through the website, reading testimonials from Marcus's victims and their families. The pattern was clear and undeniable. Marcus Thompson was a serial predator who used romance and manipulation to destroy women's lives for his own financial gain. What do you want from me? Bella asked. I want you to join us, Sarah said. Your case is the most recent, and your sister's involvement makes it the most complex. If we can prove that Marcus has been using Carmen to maintain control over you, it could be the key to bringing him down. Carmen thinks she's protecting me. Carmen is protecting herself, Sarah said bluntly. She made a deal with the devil and now she's trapped. The only way any of us will be truly free is if Marcus faces real consequences for his actions. Bella thought about her sister, about the guilt and fear she had seen in Carmen's eyes. What would happen to Carmen if we expose Marcus? That depends on how involved she's been in his operations, Sarah said. If she's truly been just a victim of his manipulation, she might face minimal consequences. But if she's been an active participant in his business, she could face charges. She embezzled money to investigate him. We know, Sarah said. Marcus has been using that information to control her for years. But embezzlement charges are nothing compared to what Marcus has done. A good lawyer could probably get her a plea deal in exchange for her testimony against him. Bella closed the tablet and handed it back to Sarah. I need time to think about this. I understand, Sarah said. But don't take too long. Marcus is smart, and he's probably already figuring out that his victims are starting to connect with each other. If he decides to run again, we might never get another chance to stop him. Sarah stood up and handed Bella a business card. I'm staying at the extended stay on Euclid Avenue, room 237. I've paid for a room for you too, room 239. You don't have to give me an answer right now, but you do need a safe place to stay while you decide. Why are you helping me? Sarah smiled sadly. Because I know what it's like to have your entire life destroyed by someone you trusted. and because none of us can heal until we see justice done. That night, Bella lay in a real bed for the first time since her release, staring at the ceiling and thinking about Sarah's offer. She thought about the 8 years she had lost, about the women who were still suffering because of Marcus's crimes, about her sister who was trapped in a marriage built on lies and blackmail. She thought about Rebecca Chin, who had taken her own life rather than continue living with the consequences of Marcus's betrayal. She thought about Jennifer Walsh, struggling to rebuild her life after years in prison. She thought about Sarah Mitchell, who had spent 6 months preparing to risk everything for the chance at justice. And she thought about herself, a 32-year-old woman with no money, no job, no family, and no future, unless she was willing to fight for it. The next morning, Bella knocked on Sarah's door at 8 a.m. "I'm in," she said when Sarah answered. "Tell me what you need me to do. The moment of truth has arrived. If you're ready to see these women fight back against the man who destroyed their lives, hit that like button and subscribe right now. What happens next will restore your faith in justice." ***. Sarah's plan was methodical and comprehensive, the work of someone who had spent years thinking about justice and revenge. Over the next 3 days, she outlined her strategy to Bella. "The key is documentation," Sarah explained as they sat in her hotel room, surrounded by files, laptops, and legal documents. "Marcus is smart and careful, but he's also arrogant. He believes he's untouchable because he's been getting away with this pattern for so long." Sarah had been working with a team of private investigators, lawyers, and journalists to build an airtight case against Marcus. They had financial records, witness statements, and documentation of his pattern of behavior across multiple states and multiple victims. "The problem we've always faced is that each case was prosecuted individually," Sarah continued. "Prosecutors in different states didn't communicate with each other, so they never saw the pattern. But if we can present all the cases together, show the clear evidence of a serial offender, it becomes much harder to ignore." "What about the statute of limitations?" "That's where it gets tricky," Sarah admitted. "In some states, the statute of limitations has expired for the older cases. But in other states, the clock stops running while a defendant is avoiding prosecution. And federal prosecutors can still bring charges for ongoing criminal enterprises." Sarah showed Bella a timeline she had created, documenting Marcus's movements and crimes over the past 15 years. The pattern was clear: he would establish himself in a new city, build a reputation as a successful financial advisor, target and romance a woman in the financial industry, set up an elaborate fraud scheme using her credentials, frame her for the crimes, and then disappear to start the process over again in a new location. "Cleveland was supposed to be his last stop," Sarah said. "After your case, he had enough money to retire comfortably. But something changed when Carmen discovered his pattern and confronted him. He got trapped," Bella realized. "Carmen had evidence that could expose him, so he couldn't just disappear like he had in other cities." "Exactly. And that's what makes your case different from all the others. In every previous city, Marcus vanished after his victim was convicted. But in Cleveland he stayed. He built a life, got married, established a business under his real name. For the first time in his criminal career, he stayed in one place long enough for us to build a comprehensive case against him." Sarah pulled out another file. "This is what we've gathered on his current business operations. On the surface, everything looks legitimate: real clients, real investments, real returns. But when you dig deeper, you can see that he's still running variations of his old schemes." Bella examined the documents. "This looks legitimate to me." "That's because Marcus learned from his mistakes," Sarah said. "Instead of running obvious Ponzi schemes that collapse quickly, he's now running long-term investment scams that generate real returns for most clients while skimming money from others. It's more sustainable, but it's still fraud." "Can you prove it?" "Not yet. But with your help, we can get the evidence we need." Sarah's plan required Bella to reconnect with Carmen and Marcus, to pretend to accept their help while secretly gathering evidence of Marcus's current criminal activities. It was dangerous. If Marcus suspected what Bella was doing, he could easily have her killed or framed for new crimes. "I know it's a lot to ask," Sarah said. "You've already sacrificed 8 years of your life because of this man. I'm asking you to risk your freedom again to help bring him down. Bella thought about it for a long time. The smart thing would be to walk away, to focus on rebuilding her own life and leave justice to others. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Rebecca Chen's face from the newspaper articles about her suicide. She thought about Sarah, who had spent 12 years in prison for crimes she didn't commit. She thought about Jennifer, struggling to rebuild her life with a criminal record that would follow her forever. What do you need me to do? The first step was reconnecting with Carmen. Bella called her sister from a burner phone that Sarah had provided. Bella? Carmen's voice was filled with relief and worry. Where are you? I've been so worried. I'm safe, Bella said. I'm staying with a friend. But I've been thinking about what you said about letting you help me get back on my feet. Of course, Carmen said quickly. Whatever you need. Do you want to come over? We can talk about job opportunities, places to live, whatever you need. Not yet, Bella said. I need some time to process everything. But maybe we could meet somewhere neutral? Just you and me, no Marcus. They agreed to meet at a coffee shop in downtown Cleveland the next day. Carmen arrived early, looking nervous and guilty. She had dressed carefully, wearing a simple sweater and jeans instead of the expensive clothes Bella had seen her in before. Thank you for calling, Carmen said as soon as Bella sat down. I was afraid I had lost you forever. You almost did, Bella said honestly. Finding out about you and Marcus, it felt like losing my family all over again. Carmen's eyes filled with tears. I know how it must have looked. I know it seems like I betrayed you in the worst possible way. But Bella, you have to believe me, everything I did was to try to protect you. Tell me about the investigation, Bella said. Tell me how you found out about the other women. For the next hour, Carmen walked Bella through her 5-year journey of discovering Marcus's pattern of crimes. She had started by following him, trying to document his daily activities and find evidence of ongoing fraud. When that didn't yield results, she had hired private investigators to dig into his background. That's when I found out about Sarah and Jennifer and Rebecca, Carmen said. I realized that you weren't his first victim, that he had been doing this for years. But I also realized that he was too smart to leave obvious evidence lying around. So you confronted him. I was young and stupid, Carmen said. I thought I could scare him into confessing, or at least into helping me get you released early. I didn't realize that he had been planning for the possibility of exposure all along. Carmen explained how Marcus had turned the tables on her, revealing that he knew about her embezzlement and threatening to have her arrested if she exposed him. He said that if I went to the police, he would make sure that both of us went to prison. You would serve your full sentence and I would be locked up too. So you made a deal with him. I made the best deal I could under the circumstances, Carmen said defensively. I agreed to stop investigating him in exchange for his help getting you released early and his promise to cover up my embezzlement. And the marriage? Carmen looked away. That was Marcus's idea. He said it would be easier to maintain our arrangement if we appeared to be a normal couple. He said that if anyone questioned our relationship, it would look suspicious if we were just living together. But you agreed to it. I agreed to it because I thought it was the only way to protect both of us, Carmen said. And because by that point I wasn't sure what other choices I had. Bella studied her sister's face. Carmen looked older, tired, worn down by years of living a lie. Do you love him? Carmen was quiet for a long time. I don't know, she finally said. I think I convinced myself that I loved him because it was easier than admitting that I was trapped. But now I'm not sure I know what love is supposed to feel like. Are you happy? No, Carmen said without hesitation. I haven't been happy in years. I've been pretending to be happy, playing a role, but inside I feel empty. Every day I wake up next to the man who destroyed my sister's life, and I pretend that everything is normal. Bella reached across the table and took Carmen's hand. Then help me stop him. Carmen looked startled. What do you mean? I mean help me gather evidence that will put Marcus in prison where he belongs. Help me make sure he never hurts another woman the way he hurt me and Sarah and Jennifer and Rebecca. Bella, you don't understand, Carmen said, pulling her hand away. Marcus isn't just some small-time criminal. He has connections, resources, people who protect him. If you try to go after him, he'll destroy you. He already destroyed me, Bella said. I have nothing left to lose. You have your freedom. You have your life. Don't throw that away for revenge. This isn't about revenge, Bella said. This is about justice. This is about making sure no other woman has to go through what we've been through. Carmen shook her head. I can't help you. I'm sorry, but I can't. I've spent 5 years building this life, this arrangement. I can't risk losing everything now. You haven't built a life, Bella said gently. You've built a prison. The only difference is that your prison has nicer furniture than mine did. Carmen started crying. You don't understand the position I'm in. If I betray Marcus, if I help you gather evidence against him, he'll expose everything. The embezzlement, the cover-up, all of it. I'll go to prison and you'll be left with nothing again. Maybe, Bella said. Or maybe we'll both finally be free. They parted that day without Carmen agreeing to help, but Bella could see that she had planted seeds of doubt in her sister's mind. Carmen was tired of living a lie, tired of being controlled by Marcus's threats. She just needed to find the courage to break free. Over the next week, Bella met with Carmen 3 more times. Each time, she carefully probed for information about Marcus's current business operations, his daily routines, his clients and contacts. She was building a profile that Sarah and her team could use to gather evidence. During their 4th meeting, Carmen made a decision that would change everything. I want to help you, she said abruptly, interrupting a conversation about Bella's job search. I want to help you bring Marcus down. What changed your mind? Carmen pulled out her phone and showed Bella a news article. This changed my mind. The article was about a woman named Patricia Gonzalez in Miami who had been arrested for investment fraud. The details were eerily familiar: a successful financial advisor, a romantic relationship with her business partner, missing client funds, a pattern of deception that had destroyed multiple lives. Marcus has been traveling to Miami for business meetings, Carmen said. He's been gone for several days at a time, claiming he's expanding his consulting practice. But reading this article, I think he started again. I think he's found another victim. Bella felt sick. How long has he been traveling to Miami? About 6 months, Carmen said. Right around the time Sarah Mitchell was released from prison. I think he knew his past was catching up to him, so he started planning his next move. We have to stop him before he destroys another woman's life. Carmen nodded. I know. And I know that means I'm probably going to prison. But I can't live with myself if I let him hurt someone else. The final phase of Sarah's plan required careful coordination and perfect timing. Carmen would gather evidence from inside Marcus's operation while Bella worked with Sarah's team to document his broader pattern of crimes. They would have one chance to present a comprehensive case to federal prosecutors before Marcus realized what was happening and disappeared. Carmen's role was the most dangerous. She had to act normally around Marcus while secretly copying files, recording conversations, and documenting his business activities. If he suspected her betrayal, he could easily make her disappear or frame her for crimes that would send her to prison for decades. Are you sure you want to do this? Bella asked her sister on the night before they began gathering evidence. Once we start, there's no going back. I'm sure, Carmen said. I've been living in fear for 5 years. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of being controlled by someone else's threats. Whatever happens, at least I'll know I tried to do the right thing. The next morning, Carmen began her double life as a spy in her own home. She installed hidden cameras in Marcus's office, copied files from his computer while he slept, and recorded their conversations using a device that Sarah's team had provided. Meanwhile, Bella worked with Sarah to coordinate with law enforcement agencies in multiple states. They were building a federal case under the RICO Act, treating Marcus's operation as an ongoing criminal enterprise that crossed state lines. For 3 weeks, everything went according to plan. Carmen gathered evidence of Marcus's new fraud operation in Miami, his money laundering activities, and his ongoing efforts to control and manipulate his previous victims through restitution payments tied to non-disclosure agreements. But on a Thursday evening in late March, Marcus came home early and found Carmen uploading files to a secure server that Sarah's team had set up. The house was silent when Bella received Carmen's emergency text. "He knows. Help me." By the time Bella and Sarah arrived at the house with a police escort, it was too late. Marcus was gone and Carmen was unconscious on the kitchen floor, beaten nearly to death. This story isn't over yet, and what happens next will either restore justice or let a monster escape forever. If you're invested in seeing Marcus face the consequences of his actions, hit that subscribe button now. The ending will shock you. Carmen spent 3 days in intensive care before the doctors were confident she would survive. The beating had been brutal and methodical. Marcus had wanted to send a message, not just to Carmen but to anyone else who might consider betraying him. Bella sat by her sister's bedside, holding her hand and watching the machines that monitored her vital signs. Carmen's face was so swollen and bruised that she was barely recognizable. Her left arm was broken in 2 places, several ribs were cracked, and she had a severe concussion. "I'm sorry," Carmen whispered when she finally woke up on the 4th day. "I'm so sorry I let him get away." "You didn't let him get away," Bella said. "He's not gone yet. We have the evidence you gathered and we know where he's going." Sarah had been working around the clock with federal agents to track Marcus's movements. His credit cards and bank accounts had been frozen, but he had access to hidden assets and false identities that made him difficult to trace. "He's heading for Miami," Sarah told Bella during one of their briefings at the FBI field office. "We think he's planning to disappear permanently this time, but first he wants to finish what he started with Patricia Gonzalez." The FBI had been in contact with Patricia, warning her about Marcus's true identity and the danger she was in. But Patricia was in a situation similar to what Bella's had been years earlier. She was already implicated in Marcus's scheme and faced prison time whether she cooperated with law enforcement or not. "She's scared," Agent Jennifer Martinez explained. "Marcus has convinced her that he's her only hope of avoiding prosecution. She thinks that if she helps us, she'll go to prison for sure. But if she stays loyal to him, he might be able to get her out of the country before she's arrested." "Can we use her as bait?" Bella asked. "It's risky," Agent Martinez said. "If Marcus suspects a trap, he could kill her. But it might be our only chance to catch him before he disappears forever." The plan they developed was similar to what Carmen had been doing. Patricia would pretend to go along with Marcus's escape plan while secretly working with law enforcement to gather evidence and track his movements. But unlike Carmen, Patricia would be protected by a full FBI surveillance team and would be wearing recording devices that could alert agents if she was in immediate danger. "I want to be there," Bella said. "When you arrest him, I want to be there." "That's not possible," Agent Martinez said. "Civilians can't be present during active operations." "I've been involved in this case longer than anyone," Bella insisted. "I've spent 8 years paying for his crimes. I deserve to see justice done." Sarah, who had been quietly listening to the conversation, spoke up. "What if we were there as victim advocates? The Bureau has programs that allow victims to observe arrests in major cases." Agent Martinez considered this. "It's unusual but not impossible. You would have to stay well back from the arrest site, and you would have to follow all instructions from our tactical team." "Agreed," Bella and Sarah said in unison. The operation was scheduled for March 30, 2024. Marcus had planned to meet Patricia at a hotel in Miami Beach, where they would finalize their arrangements to flee the country together. FBI agents would move in as soon as Marcus arrived at the hotel. Bella and Sarah flew to Miami the day before the operation, staying in a hotel several miles from the arrest site. That night, neither of them could sleep. They had been working toward this moment for months, and both knew that if Marcus escaped this time, they might never get another chance. "What will you do after this is over?" Sarah asked as they sat on the balcony of their hotel room, watching the lights of Miami twinkle in the distance. "I don't know," Bella admitted. "I've been so focused on catching Marcus that I haven't thought about what comes next. I need to find a job, rebuild my life, figure out who I am now." "Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive Carmen?" Bella thought about her sister, still recovering in the hospital in Cleveland. "I think I already have forgiven her. She was young and scared and trapped in an impossible situation. She made mistakes, but she also tried to make them right in the end. And Marcus? Will you ever be able to forgive him? No, Bella said without hesitation. What he did to me, to you, to all of us, that's unforgivable. He didn't just steal money or ruin careers. He stole years of our lives, destroyed our ability to trust, took away our sense of safety in the world. Some things can't be forgiven. On the morning of March 30th, Bella and Sarah met with Agent Martinez and her team for a final briefing. Patricia was already in position at the hotel, wearing recording devices and surrounded by undercover agents. Marcus is en route, Agent Martinez reported. He should arrive at the hotel within the next hour. Once he's in custody, we'll transport him back to Cleveland where he'll face federal charges related to your case and the other historical cases. What about the statute of limitations? Sarah asked. We're charging him under RICO for operating a continuing criminal enterprise, Agent Martinez explained. The statute of limitations doesn't apply to ongoing conspiracies. Plus, we have evidence of recent crimes in Miami that fall well within the limitations period. At 2:47 p.m., Marcus Thompson walked into the lobby of the Ocean View Hotel in Miami Beach. He was dressed casually, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap, trying to look like a tourist. But FBI agents had been watching the hotel for hours, and they recognized him immediately. Marcus took the elevator to the 7th floor, where Patricia was waiting in room 734. Hidden cameras captured him entering the room, and recording devices picked up his conversation with Patricia about their plans to flee to a non-extradition country. The money is already transferred, Marcus said, unaware that every word was being recorded. We just need to get to the airport and board the plane to Costa Rica. From there we can disappear completely. What about the investigation? Patricia asked, following the script that FBI agents had given her. What if they trace the money? They won't, Marcus said confidently. I've been doing this for 15 years. I know how to cover my tracks. That was the confession federal prosecutors had been waiting for. At 3:15 p.m., FBI agents moved in. They surrounded the hotel and took control of all exits before moving to the 7th floor. Bella and Sarah watched from a surveillance van parked 2 blocks away, listening to the radio chatter as agents coordinated the arrest. Target is in custody, came the voice over the radio. Suspect taken without incident. It was over. After 15 years of destroying women's lives, Marcus Thompson was finally in handcuffs. But for Bella, the moment felt oddly anticlimactic. She had imagined this day countless times during her 8 years in prison, had pictured herself feeling triumphant or vindicated when Marcus was finally arrested. Instead, she felt empty, drained, uncertain about what came next. How do you feel? Sarah asked as they watched Marcus being led to a police car, his hands cuffed behind his back. I feel like I can finally breathe, Bella said. For the first time in 8 years, I feel like I can breathe. Marcus Thompson was charged with 47 federal crimes, including wire fraud, money laundering, racketeering, and conspiracy. The evidence against him was overwhelming: recordings, documents, financial records, and testimony from multiple victims across multiple states. His trial began 6 months later and lasted 3 weeks. Bella, Sarah, Jennifer, and the families of Rebecca and Patricia all testified about the impact of his crimes on their lives. Marcus's defense team tried to argue that he was a reformed man who had been paying restitution to his victims and running a legitimate business. But the prosecution's evidence showed that his legitimate business was just a more sophisticated version of his old schemes, and that his restitution payments were an attempt to buy silence rather than make amends. On November 15, 2024, Marcus Thompson was convicted on all 47 counts. He was sentenced to 45 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Carmen, who had testified against Marcus despite her own legal jeopardy, received a sentence of 18 months in minimum security prison for embezzlement. She was released after serving 11 months and immediately entered a witness protection program, relocating to a new state with a new identity. Sarah used the skills she had developed during her investigation to become a victim advocate, helping other women who had been betrayed by men they trusted. She started a non-profit organization that provided legal assistance and emotional support to victims of financial fraud. Jennifer returned to school and became a certified financial planner, dedicating her career to helping other women achieve financial independence and security. Patricia, with the help of a plea agreement in exchange for her cooperation, received probation and community service. She used her experience to become a public speaker, warning other women about the warning signs of financial manipulation. And Bella? Bella used the compensation she received from a civil suit against Marcus to start her own accounting firm, specializing in helping nonprofit organizations and victim advocacy groups manage their finances. On the second anniversary of Marcus's conviction, Bella visited Carmen at her new home in Oregon. Her sister had started over completely, new name, new job, new life. She worked as a teacher at a small elementary school and lived in a modest apartment near the coast. "Do you ever regret it?" Carmen asked as they walked along the beach, watching the waves crash against the shore. "Do you ever regret bringing him down, knowing what it cost both of us?" "Never," Bella said without hesitation. "The only thing I regret is that it took us so long to find the courage to fight back." They walked in comfortable silence for a while, two sisters who had survived the worst betrayal imaginable and found their way back to each other. "I got a letter last week," Carmen said eventually, "from a woman in Seattle named Michelle. She said she read about our case online and realized that her boyfriend was showing the same patterns that Marcus did. She broke up with him and reported him to the police before he could hurt her." Bella smiled. "So some good came out of all this pain." "A lot of good," Carmen corrected. "Marcus is in prison where he belongs. 4 innocent women had their convictions overturned. And who knows how many other women were saved because our story became public." As the sun set over the Pacific Ocean, Bella felt something she hadn't experienced in almost a decade: peace. Not happiness, not yet, but peace. The knowledge that justice had been done, that the truth had finally come to light, that no other woman would suffer the way she had suffered. It had taken 8 years in prison, months of investigation, and the courage to risk everything she had left. But Isabella Rodriguez was finally, truly free. And Marcus Thompson, the man who had stolen 8 years of her life, would spend the next 45 years of his life behind bars, where he could never hurt another woman again. Justice, Bella had learned, was sometimes slow and always painful. But when it finally came, it was worth every sacrifice it had required. If this story of justice and redemption moved you the way it moved me, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Stories like Bella's remind us that no matter how dark things get, the truth has a way of fighting its way to the surface. And sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys really do win in the end.